If you are in desperate need of a lung transplant, would you risk taking the lungs of a former heavy smoker? It's an immensely difficult decision that mum of two, Robin Davidson, is willing to take. A cystic fibrosis sufferer, she knows that without them and waiting on the transplant list for a non-smoker's lungs could mean only a few years to live.
With Robin is Ed Owen, the Chief Executive of the Cystic Fibrosis Trust. He wants new criteria for lung selection and better information for those awaiting transplants. Thank you both for being here today. And if Ed, just to begin with, can you just explain what cystic fibrosis is?
Well, cystic fibrosis is an inherited condition, so you're born with a faulty gene, bluntly, and the effect of that is to attack the lungs and other organs. It's a life-shortening condition. There have been improvements over recent decades, but it shortens life. It's a heavy burden of care, physiotherapy, a heavy drug regime for people with cystic fibrosis. And for some people, often in later stage of life, transplantation is often the only way of extending that life for a period.
Yes.
What's your treatment regime?
At the moment, I do about an hour's worth of physiotherapy every day, probably about the same amount of time spent inhaling nebulizers. I take probably upwards of about 30 pills a day.
Yeah.
If I have an exacerbation, so I become, for me, unwell, then I have intravenous antibiotics for up to 2 weeks. And sometimes that can be up to 6 courses of a year.
So are there good days and bad days?
Yeah, absolutely.
But is it
Yes.
progressively getting worse?
It progressively gets worse, yeah.
So when did you find out that you were going to need a transplant?
My consultants started talking about it last April, that I was at that stage now that I've deteriorated enough in my health that it was time to start thinking about a transplant.
So how does it feel knowing that you're about to start that process? Because obviously it's a waiting list, it takes time.
Yeah.
You sort of look at the statistics of actually getting a healthy lung, lungs of different qualities. How does it feel when you're sort of facing that?
I think it's obviously known for many years that it will happen at some point. So I think now, like you said, you have good and bad days, and I think on a bad day you just want to get a transplant and to start again, get your second chance. But obviously it's daunting. You always try and look at the positive side of it, that it is a second chance, and try not to think about the negative sides of, you know, if it doesn't happen.
Yes.
Well, the figures are that a shortage of donors means that almost 40%, that's 4 in 10, of the lungs used in operations come from donors who have smoked. A study of lung transplant patients in the Lancet journal showed organs from non-smokers were safer, but crucially patients were less likely to die if they took a smoker's lungs and if they waited on the donors list for pristine organs. And so for you ticked the box.
I did.
And that's, you were willing to accept the lungs of a smoker.
Yes. For me, the biggest risk is the statistic that 1 in 3 people die while they're on the transplant list. Transplantation obviously is a risky process, but for me, and I think the biggest risk is not getting lungs at all. So therefore, anything I can do to increase the chance of me getting lungs and getting my second chance, then I am prepared to do that.
And in a way, this isn't just a decision you're making for yourself, because you're a mother, you've got 2 daughters.
Yeah.
And you want to be here for them, and it's something that I know you've been thinking about a lot. I mean, you've been writing letters for them.
Yes. As I just said, you know, even if I get the transplant, it is a risky process, and obviously, if I don't get the transplant, then yes, I have started writing letters for them that I can leave for them should the worst happen, for various stages of their life that they will be able to have and know that, you know, I wanted to be there if I couldn't be.
And you're shielding them from it at the moment, aren't you?
As best I can, yes. Yeah. I mean, they're very sensible, they're very grown up. They obviously are aware of my condition, and, you know, they actually try and sort of help me and remind me to do my physio and things. Sometimes they're very good. And they've had to know about being on the transplant list and what that means. But obviously, you know, statistics such as that aren't going to be helpful.